John, here we are again, albeit a couple of minutes late.
Sure, we made
Slight
it.
technical glitch. So I think it's your turn this time, is it not, to kick things off?
Sure. And I like the way we do this. We did what, 5 minutes of prep to come up
Yes,
with the
indeed.
question. And I've done zero prep, and I think you said you've done zero prep. So perfect. This should be a raw conversation.
I think the whole
Um,
world of war, to be honest.
Great. So the main question is thinking out loud, but let me see if I can frame it. Um, Part of conversations is thinking, speaking, acting, relating. Um, right? There's all these different aspects of conversation. And I think the one we wanted to pull out today was what does it mean to think out loud? What's the value of thinking out loud? I would dare say, what's the risk of thinking out
Yes,
loud?
you're very vulnerable when you do it.
Exactly. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on thinking out loud?
It's interesting because I saw something the other day that just reminded me of the topic, and I thought that's a really worthy topic to think about and indeed write about. And then, you know, when we were discussing what to talk, it came up in my head. Um, I think that there are at least two parts to this. There's maybe when you or I or are having a conversation, or anybody else is having a conversation, and let's say you ask me a question, and I really have not thought about it before, but I need to give you a response. Rather than coming up with a response that basically says, this is my stance on this, because I haven't formed my opinion yet, I might say to you, John, okay, let me let me think out loud. And if I say something stupid, you know, I've reserved the right to backtrack on whatever I say. Because typically when you do that, you are going to say something stupid. You're often going to say something that's may well be politically incorrect as well. Not too bad when you're doing it one on one. If you're doing it, well, if we're doing it now, sort of live, then you need to be very careful. Um, but that's one of the problems with the world today, is that if you make a mistake, if you misspeak, and it's so easy to misspeak, you can be cancelled for the rest of your damned life.
Could be.
So there's a lot of risk in that. So there's that part of it, and the other part of it is using. Uh, the other part of it is having conversations with yourself,
Mm.
which is effectively, but rather than having the conversation in your head, which is we so often do, you have that conversation with yourself out loud. You actually speak it out loud. Um, can you think of any other sort of aspect of it? I'm sure there must be more that we haven't touched on
Yeah.
yet.
Something about I don't know if I want to go so far as like introverting, extroverting, but I know I've definitely heard that before where it's like
Hmm.
I'm extroverting my thoughts. I'm processing
Okay.
out loud. I'm
Yes.
like very similar to what you said. You're right. I don't have my clear thoughts. You talked about like opinion or stance or clarity. Uh, yeah, I'm thinking like I want to. Doesn't Dave Snowden say it well, where he says like, "How do I know what I know until I hear what I say?" Something like that.
Yeah, I'm not too sure if that's a quote from Snowden, but yeah, yeah.
Somebody, yeah. So
No,
something like that.
I mean it's a very good quote actually. I quite like it.
Something like that. So yes, and I happen to have that preference or bias where I really like that. So okay, so then what comes up for me, and you said it in there, but slightly different for me, is the safety, right? Like
Yes.
I personally tend to uh come from a space where maybe I assume every conversation is a bit too safe. You know me, right? I like to put everything out there.
You say some things sometimes that really shock me.
So I kind of come from a space of this is safe. It's the old like what is it? Guilty until proven innocent or innocent until proven guilty, like the two sides there. Same thing here, like safe until proven otherwise or not safe until proven safe. Like flipping both sides and I guess I root for thinking out loud and like you said, making mistakes, saying messy things.
Mm.
Um, And I guess maybe the last thing I'll say here is like the risks. I do think, like you said, like upsetting people, offending people, not being able to be forgiven or like mercy and grace for from yourself and from others. Um, I think there is like it seems to me the older I get, the more risk I see in thinking out loud.
It's a
And
lot riskier in today's world, that's for sure. I know what one of my favorite quotations is from Theodore Zeldin, where he says the type of conversation that he likes to see is one where we're prepared to emerge a slightly different person.
Mhm.
And I've got my own version like that, where I say the type of conversation I like is one where I don't have to censor anything that I say.
Mm,
I can just go with the flow, knowing that I may well say things that are inappropriate, even offensive to some people,
mm,
um, because you really don't want to censor your thinking because you want. I often again I said with my cafes that I want the conversation to go where the conversation wants to go, and if that means going into some sort of dark area, then so what? Let it
mm.
be. That's where the creativity might be. That's where the insights might be, when you can talk about things that um, are difficult.
What if we try it from a similar but different, is it John Stepper or who's the person that, or Harold Jarkey? The whole idea in knowledge management, which, both of us
Working out
love,
loud.
working out loud, right?
That's
And
that's
so
John Stepper,
and
and
it's meant to be what I understand of it is like thinking out loud is you put your thoughts out there. I always like that, you be messy. You put stuff out in the middle. The oversimplification of work out loud is, it's pretty typical to receive a task and then turn your back, metaphorically,
yes,
go
yeah,
back and do the task, and then come back and
and then
report.
release it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And then, get the feedback late after you feel like you've done all this great work and then the feedback. Whereas I guess work out loud is like in the middle. We do the work where everyone can see it as it's unfolding, which can be scary because you're making mistakes, you're
you're making
figuring
mistakes.
things
Yeah.
out, you're
But
maybe
you
not
get feedback in real time from people
right.
around you as to, hey, you're heading down the wrong path. That wasn't what you intended to do. I mean,
Which is also risky because maybe you're like, wait, wait, wait. I'm not like it's gonna come together in a second. It's like you're correct and I'm still working it.
yeah,
And I wonder if thinking out loud is similar too, where it's like, yeah, maybe it is real-time feedback you're getting and it's harder to hear. And then there's that risk of, wait, do I understand myself? Am I am I wording this the right way? That type of feedback, I think, is where I'm taking it now.
it's the feedback. You're right. You put your finger on it. It's the feedback that's so important, and it's the feedback in real time. You're not. It's actually I saw something really interesting the other day. Um, it was an article where somebody said, "You've got this great idea, and you spend months writing it and crafting it to publish it, and then right at the last minute, you realize that it's totally unfounded. It's totally wrong,
Okay.
and your immediate thought is, well, I've wasted my time. I can't publish it. Yes. What this gentleman said was, hey, not all is not lost. You still publish it, but at the beginning you say it may be thought, or some people may think that blah de blah, but if you reflect on it deeply, you'll realize that it's wrong.
Mm,
Something like that. And
yeah.
I quite I, I'm sure I'll use that technique at some point. But the other aspect of this, and I've got two examples of it. One that I've been doing for a long time, and I think you do something similar. Um, well, there's the obvious part of it, where if I'm going to give a talk, you run through your slides and you do a dry run, but you time it and you don't have interruptions. You turn your phone off, etc., and you just talk through it. And you do that two or three times if it's new, and you know when you come to give the presentation in real life, you're not remembering it. It's not a script. You're just making sure that you've got your head around it. But you speak out loud. And of course these days you can use Zoom clips to actually record it, so you can play it back and get a feel for just how natural you are. But the one I used to really enjoy doing, which was more about thinking, and I often do this on a long journey in the car, is that I take a belief, and it could be something to do with conversation leadership, or it could be a political belief. It could be anything really. And I pretend I'm on the air being interviewed by an aggressive interviewer.
Okay.
And so I've got the two voices in my head, the aggressive interviewer and me. And of course, I can't stop and go back. This is live. If I say something and the interviewer basically challenges me on it, I've got to either say, "Oh, okay, I'm wrong," or I've got to defend myself. And that really does sharpen up my thinking
Mm,
around around subjects. I mean,
okay.
I think you do that, don't you, or not?
Mm, not very often. I've certainly have done it, especially
Mm.
in workshops when they set up a situation like that, whether it's
Ah, okay.
practice critical thinking, practice empathy, go, here's a little exercise, or yeah, they put you in groups of two or three and then you practice something that way. Um, yeah, I had a thought there. What was it? No, I lost it. It was back on the feedback. No, lost it. It'll come back.
For me, it's again, the value in that is the thinking, and the thinking in real time. And
Oh,
because if you think about something in your head and you don't do it out loud, you tend to wander off. But when you set yourself up to
you
to
can,
have to to have to respond.
I
But
did
yeah,
remember
yeah, yeah.
Dr. Tara Brach. Every Wednesday night, she does a free online 90-minute meditation practice. And right now, last week, she just finished week 4 of a 5-week series where she's calling it something like the fundamentals of mindfulness, something like that.
Okay.
Anyway, last night, I'm just now realizing, putting this together, last night, the entire 90 minutes was about thought.
Oh,
And what she
okay.
said. So I'm going to bring in maybe a slightly different perspective, but let's see. She went down the path of like um, not quite this strong, but towards you are not your thoughts, or maybe
Okay.
said better, um, like you're kind of what you were saying a minute ago. When you have a thought, literally label it thought. Like you think
Rather
something.
than label it you.
Exactly. Rather than you, or rather than like what I do a lot is I have a thought and then what I would call latch on to that thought. And
Hmm.
then I ruminate and take that thought and it sort of becomes my reality and my truth from that one initial thought. So the little exercise she had everybody do, it was all online and virtual and all, but um, she gave us something like 30 seconds or something. And she said, all I want you to do is just sit and be quiet. And when you have a thought, instead of saying thought, I want you to count. So one, like that was thought number one, and wait for the next thought to come, and then just say
Oh,
two, and
count
wait
your
for the next and
thoughts.
say three. And then when she came back, maybe me just always being interested in what other people's experiences, she rattled off some numbers. She's like, some of you may have had 10 or less thoughts. Some of you may have had 20 or more. And then she said some number that kind of blew my mind. She's like, some of you may have had over 100 thoughts. And it was like 30 seconds.
God.
Um, and I thought, oh, okay, because my number, I guess being a bit vulnerable, my number was 8. I counted 8.
Okay.
And I didn't know, is that
Sounds like a
accurate?
reasonable number to
I
have.
thought, yeah, is that, I don't know. But I counted 8 thoughts. And
Mm.
so, yeah, I wasn't quite thinking out loud. I definitely was not thinking out loud, but there was some kind of internal practice of
Mm.
believing
Mm.
I'm not my thoughts, watching my thoughts, catching my thoughts, and yeah, some kind of awareness of.
Yeah, I'm with you. The other thing I did the other day, and I'd never done this before, in fact, couldn't have done it a few years ago, is I think I'd shared with you that I'm running 3 virtual knowledge cafes for UNESCO in the Caribbean, and completed them now. But the second two, we we made the provocation rather than a talk at the beginning. We had a conversation, So in both of them, I basically interviewed two, well, they weren't necessarily AI experts, but they had a lot of experience of AI and they had a lot of experience either in industry or was the first one and the second one was economics. So I haven't had a lot of experience of actually doing interviews. And I didn't know either of these gentlemen, although I did have a brief conversation with them beforehand. But what I did, I took ChatGPT. I gave ChatGPT my bio. I gave them my partner's bio. I gave them the information about the cafe. And the first thing I said was, okay, give me 6 really good provocative questions that I could ask the person I was interviewing. And I printed those out. And I said, right, now I want you to pretend to be that person. Oh, yes, because I'd given them the bio. And I recorded it because it was going to be a 15-minute interview. I recorded it on Zoom clips
Hmm.
and, and on my phone. I actually had a real time, not conversation, interview based on the questions I had. Not like ask them in order because, again, in any good conversation or good interview, you go where the conversation's going. And I did that twice, and it just gave me the confidence to know that whatever pretty much the the person I was interviewing said, I could I could respond intelligently because that was my fear was in some sense that maybe they knew more than me, but I was interviewing them anyway, so in some ways it didn't really matter,
Hmm.
and I was happy with that, and they worked really well. So again, it was conversational. It was causing me to think. Um, it was causing me to think out loud in some sense
Yeah, and practice out loud. That's kind of
and
another
practice
takeaway
out
for me
loud.
from this whole thing is practice out loud. Because maybe that's a nice word. Like when you and I have our one-on-one conversations, whether we're live streaming or not, yeah, I think almost always thinking out loud or just sort of
Yeah.
offering or processing.
Well,
When you
we
and I
do
get on,
because we're not threatening each other. If I say something really stupid, it's safe, and the same with you.
yeah,
You do it
and
every
I
time,
also
John, and I.
I know exactly, and I know exactly. I feel safe to do it, and you're not gonna like
You,
whatever.
you do it anyway. I mean,
Yeah,
regardless of whether it's safe.
yeah.
That's one of the
And
things I
I
love
know that
about
if
you.
you say things like I'm not gonna like sort of think different or behave different.
No.
Maybe there's enough history for us that it's
But we can also challenge each other.
sure.
If I say something that's inappropriate or politically incorrect or just downright stupid, you can say to me,
You know I'm gonna say something.
"Yeah, you hang on, David. Just listen to what you just said. That's all you need to say. You don't need to correct me or challenge me. Just hey, just reflect on what you just said, and then
Exactly.
the chances are I'm going to realize what I said, and I'm going to say, oh, okay, yeah, I get it.
I've actually seen that more and more. The more I pay attention, it is quite, yeah, people do that where they just say, did I hear you correctly? Or can you just repeat what you just
Didn't
said?
hear you
Or
correctly.
notice
Yes.
what you just said? Or like, yeah, that just almost that little, like as you say, Zoom clip, that little quick rewind of check that. Are you still sure? Now that you've said it
Are
out
you,
loud,
are you
now
sure
what?
you really wanted to say that? Or are you
Yeah.
sure you really want to think that?
Mm. Yeah.
But we
Yeah.
don't see that in many of the podcasts, or especially political oriented ones. Everybody's got an opinion and they stick to it. I think even if they do say things wrong, that they're unlikely to backtrack because it makes them look weak.
And at risk of dropping too many little quotes, now what's coming up for me is do you know this one? It's something like we judge ourselves based on our intentions and we judge others based on their actions, something like
Yes.
that.
Yes, exactly.
And so maybe
Exactly.
this thinking out loud is,
Yeah.
could we flip that and sort of, I don't know, check in with each other's intentions?
Okay. I think we've gone a good 20 minutes.
I don't see anything in chat, so I think we just close.
Okay, but I think at least a few people are coming in and listening later, and it's it's a good history for us to capture and look back on in a year's time. I wonder in a year's time, will we really still be doing these and have 50 of them? I hope so.
And for sure, we can take these transcripts and get ChatGPT to, you know, put some put something to it.
Pull out the nuggets if there are any.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, John, let's let's